Today marks 20 years since Enron filed for bankruptcy, setting off one of the biggest corporate scandals in history and changing the course of business as we know it. Scott Cohen covered this story for the network, and he joins us now from the epicenter of it all in Houston. Great to see you, Scott. I remember those days.
Yeah, it does seem like yesterday, doesn't it, Andrew? That's the Enron building behind me. The glass tower still stands. The crooked E logo that was street side is long gone. Chevron actually has offices here now. But Enron did leave behind a lot more than just an office building and a financial disaster. In fact, many of the things that we take for granted today can trace their roots right there to 1400 Smith Street.
Mr. Jenkins, it must be evening there. Thank you.
20 years before Zooming was a thing, this Enron promotional video was touting video conferencing on the internet and streaming video years before Netflix.
Enron Communications is changing how the world communicates.
We're changing the industry.
Scott Yeager was head of strategy for the division that became Enron Broadband. We spoke on Zoom.
We were the only ones focused on broadband experiences, and broadband did include streaming media and did include interactive, dynamic, meetings like this.
Before that, Enron created the modern-day markets for natural gas and electricity, setting the course for how energy is priced to this day. Energy markets expert Ed Hurst, who worked with prosecutors to build their cases against company executives, concedes that Enron was a pioneer.
Did Enron revolutionize trading for natural gas and electricity? Without question. Brought liquidity, brought benefits to consumers and producers.
Which is why when Enron went bankrupt, throwing thousands out of work in a matter of hours, many mourned more than just a job. But Leslie Caldwell, the first head of the Justice Department's Enron task force, says none of that means Enron was not a fraud.
The people who worked at Enron, there were tens of thousands of them, that many of them, probably almost all of them, were honest, hardworking people trying to do the right thing. But the problem was they had a culture at the top that was not that way.
There was a lot, though, that also came out of that culture that still exists today. How should we look at that? The things that they did that were literally pioneering.
I'm not saying that they didn't have any good ideas or do anything, but they tried to monetize things before they were really ready.
Leslie Caldwell says that when that happened, that's when Enron executives crossed the line, trying to make it look like the company was making money where they didn't. A lot of those executives dispute that, but nonetheless, some 24 people pleaded guilty or were convicted of all manner of financial crimes. Caldwell had cut her teeth as a federal prosecutor going after the mob. She brought those tactics to the Enron task force, and she says that is another innovation that came out of Enron, aggressive prosecution of financial crime that she says caused corporate America to be more accountable. Andrew?
Scott, when you think back 20 years ago, and I remember that Sunday vividly because I ended up writing the front page story in the New York Times about the bankruptcy and then watching you that next Monday. And did you realize in that moment, at that time, just how momentous this bankruptcy was and how it was going to change business?
Well, remember, Enron's kind of death spiral began in October, and it was dizzying. And a lot of people were concerned because they were such a huge player in energy trading that there would be a huge ripple effect financially among traders and counterparties and things like that. That didn't happen so much, but the scandal that followed, because this became more than just a business story, it really became something that was sort of in the national psyche over the next several months and on into Skilling and Lay's trial in 2006. That was something to behold, and really what gets lost in it is a lot of the things that they were doing right at Enron, a lot of those innovations that we take for granted today. But if they weren't really making money, and if they put growth over stability, well, that's where the problem came in.